On this episode of Locked On Angels, two former Halo pitchers find two new teams, and the baseball media shows their bias. Also, what has to go right for the Angels in 2025 for the Angels to actually be good with the team as it currently is set up? Plus, the Angels add a young arm, somebody that's pretty intriguing. We're going to talk about him. It's time to get Locked On with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. We're hoping for 10K by opening day. And whether you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube and leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Gametime. You can download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
Happy Monday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we're in our third offseason as the host of Locked On Angels. We're normally here 5 days a week. Right now, during the offseason, we're down to 3 days a week, just to have a little bit of a off-season break. It's the holidays. It's the holiday week. It's Christmas week. It's a busy week for everybody. So we'll be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday for you. If there's anything breaking or anything like that, of course, we'll have an emergency podcast right in the middle of gift opening. Nothing's going to stop us if there's an emergency podcast.
Grab the iPhone. Get the
That's
ring
right.
light.
That's right. Get it all ready. Hey, on today's show, Sandy and Canning found new teams, and the media, well, it got you feeling some sort of way, didn't it, Mike? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. What has to go right in 2025 for this team? But first, let's talk about the Halos adding Mitch Farris in a trade for Davis Daniel. How about that?
Yeah, they traded with the Atlanta Braves, John. That's
new.
That's an interesting move, right?
The Braves?
I don't think they trade with anybody else. Maybe they did trade with the White Sox, but the Braves and the Angels made a move. Mitch Farris, John, is a 23-year-old 14th round draft pick of the Braves from 2023, pitched to a 3.08 ERA across 2024, had one bad start in Double-A, which inflated his ERA a bit. His A-ball stats, 7 games, 2 starts, 2.38 ERA with a 1.36 whip. And then in High A, 17 games, 16 starts, 2.95 ERA, had a 1.0 whip with a 3.07 FIP, 28.4% K rate, and 7.6% walk rate. That's what we want to see in 81 1/3 innings pitched, Johnny. And Fangraphs had a report on Mitch Farris, and it was their midseason report, and they gave him an average grade. Now, they gave him a 35 plus FV, which is future value. Now, the scale is between 20 and 80, so a 35 to 40. It signifies that the player has potential to play a role on a team, but isn't going to be the superstar that maybe they would want to be. For Ferris, his 35 future value means that he will potentially be a role player. He could be a back of the rotation guy. He could really fill in for somebody if they're hurt, but he's young, has time to develop, came from the Braves system. A really interesting move to pick this guy up, right, Johnny?
Yeah, and to get something for Davis Daniel, who was DFA'd. Essentially, they made the trade with the Braves because the Braves wanted to cut the line, I guess you could say. And that means that they get dibs on Davis Daniel by making this trade. 35 future value, not going to be significant, not going to be an all-star, right? Not going to be anything like that.
At least
However,
at this point, yeah.
At this point, right. And they do their best to predict things. Fangraphs is pretty harsh.
They are. I was going to bring that up because it feels like, Mike Trout. Well, this guy might be a starter, right? I mean,
they're like the MLB The Show. I think it was 2011 that had Mike Trout in it, and it was like, yeah, he's not going to amount to much, right? And so let me give you the details on Ferris here. It says he's a small school lefty with a graceful, repeatable delivery, a classic vertical arm stroke that helps him hide the ball for a very long time. He deploys two effective secondary pitches, a screwball style changeup from a high slot and low spin breaking ball reliant on Ferris's command, and his ability to locate his fastball helps keep it out of trouble. Even though it isn't all that hard, it will be more vulnerable as he climbs the minors, but it's plausible Ferris could yet throw harder given his small school background and frame mechanics combo. So Ferris for Daniel. What did we get? Did we get the same type of player, just younger, kind of hitting the reset button on a Davis Daniel type? Or did we get something a bit different? What do you say?
Initially, that's really what it is. I think it's a swap of two pitchers that needed a change of scenery, a swap of two pitchers that are going to be a back of the rotation guy, somebody that's going to be a swing starter, maybe a long reliever. But John, I really like Ferris, and here's why. He's young. He's 4 years younger than Davis Daniel. By the way, Locked On Hall of Famer Davis Daniel. We wish him well. Love that guy. But Mitch Farris is younger. What I like about what the scouts are saying about him is that he has a repeatable delivery, meaning that he's going to be the type of guy that I think fits in really well with what Perry Manassian wants and what Barry Enright wants. They want somebody that knows what they're doing on the mound, and if something goes wrong, they're going to say, oh, I know what went wrong. I know what I need to work on. And I think that what the Angels are doing, and it's probably why they're taking a lot of players from the Braves, especially this pitcher, is they want guys who have a mindset, a baseball IQ that doesn't need a whole lot of coaching on the will side of things. They just might need some coaching on the skill side of things.
You don't want another Reed Detmers or Patrick Sandoval,
yes,
is what you're trying to get at. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that really what Mitch Farris brings is somebody who has a lot of upward trajectory up and to the right. I think he's somebody that is going to fill in nicely when it comes to the minor leagues. I think he's going to be depth there. I don't know if we'll necessarily see him in the majors at any point this season, but he could be somebody that an emergency spot start, somebody that needs to come in. They need a long reliever. They're going to move some pieces around when it comes to the bullpen. He might be somebody whose name comes up. I like the move because it's one of those moves that gives the Angels a lot of depth, and he's somebody that's younger, so they have a little bit more time to work with him in the system that they have currently.
Yeah, I do enjoy the numbers you read earlier, especially across single A and high A. I know he had that one bad start in double A, but yeah, you like what you see there, especially in high A, 1.081 whip, 3.07 FIP. That K rate is strong. The walk rate is below 10%. And so he had a lot of mileage this season in 2024 to, make a name for himself. I imagine he might end up in double A with the Trash Pandas. That's kind of the next thing for him, where they could say, all right, you clearly can handle single A, high A. Now it's time to see how you can handle double A. And look, some of the best arms in the system are in double A. And so it might be good to get him around there. So again, it's not a move that lights up the world, but the fact that they were able to get something for Davis Daniel, because again, he was DFA'd and the Braves looked at him and said, hey, there's something there. And that's the thing about Davis Daniel is there is something there. We already talked about with him on the show a year ago, like the mentality is there. He gets it. He understands how to, thread pitches together and stitch them together in a sequence that makes sense for fooling the batter at the plate.
Right.
Now it's just a matter of the skill level meeting that. And I think the Braves are a team that can help get him there. Really what this comes down to is the Braves get somebody who's obviously able to come up and give you a few starts out of the rotation if you need him to. And then the Angels, again, kind of get to hit the reset button with a pitching prospect that, might be worth something in the future. Again, future value is it is predictive. Like they're trying to say, like, this is where this guy will end up once he hits the major leagues. And so that 35 future value, it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. Maybe he's a rotation guy. Maybe he comes out of the bullpen, something like that. But you do like the scouting report here. Like you said, the repeatable delivery, things like that. I believe, Jared Timms of Talking Halos posted a quick sequence of Mitch Farris's stuff, and it was a 3-pitch sequence, and it was like, hey, that that looks pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to complain about that. And so that was when he was in high A this past season. So that was pretty cool to see.
I saw a lot of scouts and did a deep dive on him that really were impressed by Mitch Farris. They really liked Mitch Farris. And I think what this does, John, is that it announces that the Angels feel really confident in the pitchers that are behind our starting rotation currently, meaning the Sam Aldegueris and the George Clausens and the Jack Kohanowitz. And Davis Daniel was in that category as well. And what I think they anticipated for this next season was that we're probably not going to use Davis Daniel. We're probably going to have him kind of floating somewhere in the minor leagues. And what I appreciate about how Perry Manassian has changed this organization in the last few years that he's been around is that it seems like he's getting rid of the guys that are just there and actually putting guys in positions where there is a program and a strategy for who they want them to be in the future for the Angels. Because again, Davis Daniel, Kenny Rosenberg, kind of just there, kind of just filling in. And think about it this way. If we need a spot start, instead of Davis Daniel and Kenny Rosenberg, it could potentially be Kohanowitz, Aldegueri, and George Clausen.
Yeah.
I want those guys more than I would want the previous guys, because the previous guys, they just want them to eat some innings and fill in for this moment. But you bring up those three guys, especially a Kohanowitz, who really is someone they should consider being in the starting rotation. That's exciting. And that's what gets me excited as a fan, because you're not just throwing dudes in there. Hey, eat up this, go 5 innings for us, please. Give up 6 runs. Doesn't really matter. You're bringing up these other 3 guys and you're like, they have a potential to get you a win and pitch really well, a quality start when they do start for you.
Yeah. They're in a position now where guys like Davis Daniel aren't completely necessary because they're excited about the younger arms that are coming up behind them.
And
so
no disrespect to Davis Daniel.
No,
no
of course
disrespect. Not. But I like that. I like that.
Right.
They're like, hey, we got to move on. We got to move on. We have these other guys. And so let's use these other guys.
Yeah. You have depth now. And so, and you have depth that you're excited about, which I think is a key difference as well. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, 2 former Halos find new teams. The media celebrates and Mike gets angry. We're going to talk about all of that coming right up.
Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. John, the NFL playoffs are here. Did you hear the controversy? People were like, how could the college football playoffs and the NFL, how could they go up against one another? I love that people were all upset about that. For me, I'm like, this is perfect for those that use FanDuel, right?
Don't act like you don't have a DVR or you can't watch it later. Yeah, exactly.
But if you're using FanDuel, you can bet on all of it, especially when it comes to the NFL. FanDuel's America's #1 sports book. And right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So many ways to pick up a W on FanDuel. Not only can you bet on who's going to win the games, but you also can bet on which players are going to score a touchdown, how many points each team is going to score, so much more. So check out FanDuel.com to join today. Again, FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Mike, you're a little upset about something.
Yes.
And you're like, we're talking about this on the show. And I said, all right, let's talk about it. So we found out Griffin Canning, Patrick Sandoval, they both ended up with new teams. Canning signed a deal with the Mets, 1 year, $4.25 million. The deal includes $1 million in potential bonuses. Remember, the Braves got Canning from the Angels in the Jorge Soler trade, but then they non-tendered him, so that made him a free agent. Patrick Sandoval ended up signing with the Red Sox, 2 years, $18.25 million contract. Remember, Sandoval had Tommy John surgery. He's currently recovering. The anticipation was that he wasn't going to be ready, or at least back until the end of 2025, maybe even 2026.
Yeah.
At least that's the word
that
was floated around for, I don't know, since he had the surgery.
Right.
And even when we found out recent news about Patrick Sandoval, that he probably wasn't going to come back in 2025 until at least the end of the season. But something changed, didn't it, Mike?
Yeah. So Ken Rosenthal and Jeff Passan announced the signings. And what they said really caught my eye. there was a celebratory tone. There was a praise for the Red Sox and the Mets for taking a chance
here we go.
on two guys that have all sorts of potential. And then even some local Angel reporters wondered aloud why the Angels wouldn't tender Sandy a contract, because Sandy's somebody they could have gotten for cheaper than the Red Sox. And my first response to that was, seriously, this is where we're at. This is where we're at as fans. This is where we're at as reporters. This is where we're at in baseball. Here's a couple of points. First, that's a ton of money for Patrick Sandoval. That's a ton of money for a guy who's not going to pitch in 2025. And that's the reality. He's not going to pitch in 2025. If he does pitch, he's not going to pitch effectively in 2025. So
he's going to go 3 innings.
Yes.
At the most.
He still has to come back. He still has to work back. He's got a lot of work to do. I hope he does well. But John, he's this idea of like, oh yeah, second half, Sandy's going to be there and all of those things. And then there's a conversation about WBC Sandy that happened in 2023. And everybody was excited about that. And could he actually get back? Come on. That's just, it's terrible. That's a terrible take. Second, if the Halos had kept either of these guys, or if they gave Patrick Sandoval the money that the Red Sox gave Patrick Sandoval, the Angels would have been eaten alive by national media and by local media and by fans. And here's why. The response to this is so wild, because these are two guys that, how often, John, doing this show, did we have comments? Did we have tweets? Did we get retweeted? Did we see people saying, DFA, that get rid of Canning? DFA, get rid of Patrick Sandoval. These guys are just a waste of space. And then when they actually let them go, now they sign with other teams, and fans are saying, man, I don't know why the Angels didn't, or I don't understand. I mean, that is so ridiculous. And I get that we have the privilege of sitting in our chairs, sitting in our lazy boys, sitting on our couch and making all sorts of decisions without any sort of consequence. But it just drives me nuts that this narrative out there of, that was a really good move, watch them fix them. No, that's not going to happen, because these two guys are just not great. They don't have great fastballs. They can't throw strikes. Sandy at best was a fringe major league pitcher. I know he had one really good year with the Angels, but one really good year doesn't mean that he's going to be really good in the future. And this is just, it's nonsense to me that these guys suddenly, and these teams, because they're not on the Angels anymore, suddenly they're going to be Greg Maddux and Justin Verlander. Suddenly they're going to be Chuck Finley and Mark Langston, right? Like, this is just nonsense to me that this narrative is out there from national media, even local media, and even fans. Man, I don't know. Maybe we should have re-signed Canning, or maybe we should. You were the same people that said that they should be DFA'd and kicked off this team. And if I never see a Sandoval start again, right, I'll be really, really happy, which is true. What the Angels are doing is that they're moving in a direction of actually having major league caliber pitchers on this team that actually have a plan, actually have a strategy, know what they need to work on. The Caden Danas of the world and the Jack Kohotowitz of the world are the pitchers that the Angels need. Stop wasting time thinking about Griffin Canning and Patrick Sandoval, and let them go. And if other teams fix him, by all means, fix them. But it's ridiculous that the narrative is, well, they could have kept this guy and could have paid him less. It's garbage. It's a garbage take. It's terrible. Listen, I know that we have the right to have baseball opinions. Everybody has the right to have baseball opinions, but I have the right to point out when those baseball opinions are stupid and dumb.
There you go. Well, look, let me paraphrase, if you will.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Canning and Sandoval, first of all, I think it's important for the Angels to move on from those guys. You've tried, obviously. You've gotten what you can out of them, and what you've gotten out of them has not been very good, save for 1 year of Patrick Sandoval. Now, if they go to these other teams and do great, you're not saying that these teams aren't going to fix them. You're saying that, why is it that this is celebrated when they're on a different team?
Yes.
And why, were we so quick to want to get rid of them? Why is it that national writers suddenly go, oh, Patrick Sandoval's
right?
The Red Sox,
right?
Look, I have, I have all the faith in the world that the Mets can figure out something like they did with Sean Manaea. The Red Sox can figure out something with Patrick Sandoval. I saw a great write-up on Twitter. I can't remember who it was, but it was a Reds fan did a huge breakdown of, what Sandy does successfully and how the Red Sox can really tap into that. And so if that's what people are looking at and they see that, that's great.
Sure.
But it's the instant light switch of, Hoppy on the Angels is, I don't know, not a top 10 catcher, but if he was on the Guardians,
right,
that would be historic. If he was on the Astros, oh man, can you imagine? Like, that's what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Right. And go ahead.
And could I just make a point too? Like this narrative of like, hey, they could fix them, and that the Angels couldn't. Stop with that, because the Angels have proven that they can do that. Two names: Hunter Strickland and Carlos Estevez. Both of those guys came over last year. Hunter Strickland, 2 years ago, Carlos Estevez, and they saw something and they fixed them. They helped them to be better. So it can happen with the Angels as well. I know they're my team. I know I'm biased. I know I'm a fan, but it does happen on the Angels as well. These two guys that they have let go have just not bought into, I guess, with the strategy and with the direction that Barry Enright is giving. And so even that narrative is frustrating when the national media is like, oh, wow, they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And it's missed that, hey, there's this other team that has done that as well. But because they haven't been noticed, or because they lost their superstar player, or because the owner doesn't want to do the things that fans want him to do, then suddenly this team is garbage completely, which is completely untrue.
Right. Well, and it just goes to show that when you have somebody like Sandoval or Canning on the Angels and they're not being discussed, and then suddenly they become a hot topic, it has everything to do with the fact that it's the Angels. The Angels haven't done anything to earn respect, I suppose. But even when you have somebody like Sandoval cooking like he did in 2022 with a 2.92 ERA, I think off the top of my head, something really great. I mean, there wasn't a lot of talk about that or celebration about that. I will say this. I am glad that the Angels are moving on from those guys. I think they got the mileage out of them that they can. They saved money by not tendering Canning or Sandoval a contract, essentially. They kind of got Jorge Soler for free, considering that they probably wouldn't have tendered Canning a contract. And they needed Soler. They needed a power bat in the lineup, and that's what they got. And they're going to have some of that this season. The last thing I'll say is shout out to Greg Amsinger from MLB Network, because his number one guy this season that he predicted was going to have a breakout year was Ben Joyce. And so that was cool to see. So just to appease the narrative of everything you just brought up, I think it's cool. Greg Amsinger had a lot of praise for Ben Joyce.
My new hero.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, Mike, the fact is it was time for the Angels to move on from these guys. They're older. They're at the end of their 20s, right? They have pitching that they're excited about that we talked about.
Yep.
It's just they're in a position to move on from guys. And again, Sandoval pitching in 2025, huge question mark. And then all of a sudden it's not a huge question mark that
he's on a different team. Yeah.
He'll be back in the second half. No, I don't think there's like magic sauce in Boston that's going to, the clam chowder is not going to get him back on the field any faster than recovering from that Tommy John surgery than everybody already said it was going to take this season.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. They are focused on togetherness this holiday season. It is Christmas week, by the way. That's exciting. And that means that when you bring people together at live events, the experience is so much better when you use Gametime. So use Gametime to help you make the holidays bright and give the gift that's super exciting. And right now, you're going to save money with Gametime on all sorts of tickets. Johnny, Gametime has an exclusive offer for the Rose Bowl.
My backyard. Let's go.
You're literally just a few minutes away from the Rose Bowl. You can get 10% off tickets in the home corners, the away corners, and in the end zones, making the prices even better. And those prices are expensive. So thank you, Gametime, for helping us out. These exclusive zone deals are specifically selected sections in the stadium where fans can find deeper discounts by letting Gametime choose their exact seats for the game. So take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the app today. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, promo code LOCKEDONMLB to get $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? Gametime.
All right. Are you still verklempt? Have you taken a breather?
Let me get a drink of water.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, you get yourself a glass of water. Mike, turning the page here. And as we head into, Christmas week, the holiday week, New Year's is coming up. What has to go right for the Halos to be successful next season? We're answering the question with the roster as it currently stands. By the way, if the Angels get something out of Kyle Hendricks this season, that will go unnoticed as well. For as much as, the Mets will fix Canning, the Red Sox will fix Sandoval. Yep. Hendricks will have a great season.
Hendricks going to go 14-10. He's going to have probably a low 4 or high 3 ERA, pitch 160 innings, and nobody will say a word.
Yeah. Nobody said boo.
See, well, this is who he is. This is really who he is. He's a veteran. He's figured it out.
And we'll have dissertations in the YouTube comments from people who aren't interested in interacting, but just, having a soap.
Another cast off.
Yeah.
Trash, garbage, every move. Trash, somebody probably already put that. Mitch Farris, trash, garbage. Trash. Okay.
Never even heard of Mitch Farris. Trash.
Is that a band? Say Ferris.
That's right. Ferris Bueller. So we're answering, as the roster currently stands, what needs to go right? Let me start by saying health is the first thing. First and foremost, health has to be number one. Trout has to be healthy.
Yep.
He's got to play at least 130 games.
Sure.
Kikuchi, Soriano, Anderson, they've got to be in there grinding it out. Look, for as much as grief as we gave Anderson in the second half, the guy pitched the most innings and tore it up this season. Kikuchi, Soriano, we want to see a full season from Soriano. I think now that he's, kind of been through the storm and weathered the storm a little bit, we could see that. Kikuchi has been a pillar of health. So I imagine he will get the most innings this season. But bullpen pieces like Ben Joyce, eventually Robert Stevenson, they got to be in there more than 40 times. What did Strickland end up with? Like 67?
Yeah.
Something crazy like that. Now, he's not a closer, but Ben Joyce is a closer, so you're going to use him in specific situations. So I'd say at least 40 appearances. I think Amsinger said 47 saves for Joyce. This is something crazy like that. And then finally, when it comes to health, this is going to, make people laugh. But Anthony Rendon has to be a positive contribution. I don't mean that he needs to be the starting third baseman every single day. What needs to happen, and if they want to utilize him in the way that they've spoken about him this offseason, if he's coming off the bench, I would venture to say maybe he puts up a higher WAR than 0.6 like he did this past season.
Yeah.
If he's only being used in specific situations, a pinch hit here and there, he's filling in every fifth day for somebody. He comes off the bench, takes a walk that moves the lineup down, and then Trout comes up, right? Soler comes up.
Right.
He might have the ability to have a positive contribution, but it all begins with health, and it all begins with Trout staying healthy. This team goes nowhere if Trout can't stay healthy, in my opinion.
Right. Second thing, Johnny, is the young players must take a step forward in their development, which means that the narrative has to shift from, they're learning how to win. They're cute, right? To they're helping the team win. That's where it needs to shift. And I think that has to start with Logan O'Hoppe. When we saw him at the O'Hoppe Bowl, he said, nobody's happy about the 99 in the loss column.
Yeah.
We're going to do something about that. I think that this guy has the potential, if he stays healthy, to go off this season. And I'm not just talking about offensively, but John, I think he has to go off as a defensive guy, as a help to the pitching staff. And I think that's going to be the case with a Travis d'Arnaud along the way. It gives him an opportunity to get off of his feet, maybe DH a little bit more often as well, maybe move around. Maybe they teach him how to play first base, right? But I think Logan O'Hoppe has to lead the way for these young guys. They have to move from they're learning how to win to, oh no, they're helping this team win and they're moving forward.
Can I point out something too that comes up a lot? And it's, what did this coaching staff even do for this team? Well, you have to consider somebody like Joe Adell was working on his swing all season long.
Yeah.
And right before he got hurt, there was a good month there where it was like, this is what I want to be doing moving forward.
Yeah.
This is how I want to swing at the plate, right? Same thing with like Nolan Shawnuel, who started out with a really terrible start to the season.
Yeah.
Eventually hit 280 the rest of the way from June onward. Same with Mickey Moniak. They were trying to give Mickey Moniak the marching orders to be a contact guy, kind of like what they were doing with Joe Adell, right? Hey, you don't have to swing for the fences. You just have to make contact, and you make good enough contact that you're strong enough that it's going to find the gap. And that might be true, but to say Mickey Moniak is not a home run hitter when he was coming off 23 home runs in 23 or something ridiculous like that? I'll look it up here. 14 in 2023? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, either way, the guy can hit home runs.
Right.
And so I think it's a disservice to change who he is at the plate when he's able to do that. So all that to say, these guys were figuring it out throughout the season, and they need to come into the season having had it figured out. That's what I think. Third thing, Mike, starting five need to pitch quality innings, 3 to 4 quality starts a week. We can't have 4 innings here, 5 innings there, a 3-inning outing from Reed Detmers with 100 pitches, right? They have to throw first pitch strikes. They have to locate well. They can't max out too early in the game, and they have to pitch efficiently so that they're mixing their pitches and focus on that. And so you're inducing the ground balls, you're getting the strikeouts, you're not giving up a ton of home runs. Get through the order quickly and get deep into those games. I think that's what they need to do.
Yeah, and the bullpen, John, speaking of pitching, has to continue to be a strong piece for this team. The bullpen was really great. They finished the season with an ERA under 4. They had a 1.2 whip. And since June 17th of last year, they had an ERA at 2.5. And so they were really, really good. And so I think when it comes to pitching, they have to continue to be really, really good. And if Ben Joyce ends up having a great year, I think that will be a benefit to this team and help them to be competitive. And then lastly, John, the team has to have major league quality backups who perform like major league average players, right? And that's why these guys that they're signing are not cast offs, right? They're not just thrown into the dust bowl and never to be heard again. Like, these are players that are actually going to benefit the Angels. Now, if they're playing regularly, that's a problem. And it means that point number 1 that you brought up, health, is not something that the Angels are having too much success at. But if you can stay healthy, I think that this team could be really, really good. And I think that this team could be really competitive. And we're going to see them in the race instead of out of the race by May, right?
Yeah. This honestly feels a lot like 2023 did with the moves that they did over that offseason. It was like, oh, you got Hunter Renfroe and Gio Urshela. Okay, like major league guys. Maybe Hunter Renfroe will hit you home runs. Urshela can play everywhere. They were in it up until the trade deadline, and that's why they went for it. I know it all fell apart. Maybe it wasn't the greatest trade deadline moves ever, but the fact is, man, that was exciting that they were in on it. Now, the big question is for our everydayers, and you can answer this in the comment section on YouTube or get at us on social media. What are we missing? What needs to go right with this roster as it stands? What needs to go right in 2025 for this team to have success? You tell us in the comment section on YouTube or on social media. We'd love to hear from you.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB with our friend Sully. You can find his show on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show on YouTube, get in the comment section, hit that subscribe button. We want 10K by opening day. We are slowly making our way on to 10K, making our way downtown. Sorry, that just came to mind. Mike, what do we have on deck for the Christmas Day episode of Locked On Angels?
We're here. What a gift, right? And so we're going to talk about what we want for Christmas from our Halos. I'm going to take a section. John's going to take a section. And then we're going to talk about if we're actually going to get that or not. So that's all happening on Wednesday. We hope you'll join us. Invite us to Christmas breakfast, Christmas lunch, Christmas dinner while you're opening gifts. Let Locked On Angels entertain you while you're opening up those gifts. You're welcome. Join us Wednesday for Christmas Locked On Angels.
Let us be the background music. You've heard enough Mariah Carey and Bing Crosby. Let us be the background music on Christmas Day. All right. Thanks for being here, friends. We'll see you back here on Christmas Day. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
All right, y'all have a great day, and we will see you back here on Wednesday.